What is up, guys? Welcome back to another Odd Popcorn for That review. I'm Chris,
I'm Nick.
and today we're talking about the new 2024 remake of Nosferatu by Robert Eggers.
When we turned around, everyone was dead. The stench of their bodies was horrible. Standing before me was death. But I'd never been so happy.
So this is one I think both of us were looking forward to all year. It was one that, we heard about early on, and you never get a look at the guy, so there was a lot of intrigue behind it. So we finally got a chance to see this movie, the last review of the year. What were your thoughts going into this? Do you have any preconceived notions about Nosferatu? Have you seen any of these?
No, not really. I mean, I haven't seen the original, so I just knew it was a horror flick. I mean, I guess I have seen iterations of it. Obviously, The Last Voyage of the Demeter.
Mm-hmm.
But I did watch some British show. I think it was just called Dracula, where it kind of split into 3 episodes, where it was the real estate agent going to the castle was one long episode, and the voyage was 1 episode. So not too much.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't seen the original or anything. I get the idea. It is it's a 1920s German rip-off in a way of the Bram Stoker's Dracula, and they just changed the names of things to avoid, which they didn't successfully avoid getting sued for this. But this is definitely the retelling of Dracula with the names changed and everything. So I'm a huge Robert Eggers fan, and that's what brought me to this more. I like a good vampire story. I like the Dracula story. I think it's interesting and everything. But I went into this as a Robert Eggers fan. I loved The Witch, especially. I really liked The Lighthouse, especially on a rewatch. So I wonder what your thoughts are about it, but I feel like I went in maybe with a little too high expectations. There's a lot to like about this, and it definitely feels like it's full of Robert Eggers style and everything, but it is very much a retelling of Nosferatu, and I guess I don't know, that's exactly what I asked for going into this, so I guess I don't know what I expected. Maybe the main thing for me is that I wanted to feel a little bit more invested emotionally in these people, and I think with the exception of I think Lily Rose Depp does a really good job as kind of our main character, and I think it was cool that he shifted the focus to her for the majority of this movie. I think it opens really strong, and I think Willem Dafoe always understands the assignment. But there were some things that kind of held me back a little bit about this, so I'm curious to see how you felt about it. I think you're probably going to like this more than me.
Yeah, no, I think I'm kind of similar in the way where it probably had it hyped up in my head a lot more, and it was more of kind of like a slow burn movie, and you don't get too attached to all the side characters and stuff. But I did like it quite a bit. It's really dark and atmospheric, and Bill Skarsgård was really good.
There's a lot to like about the atmosphere. I mean, I think the cinematography, the framing of the shots, everything looks like a painting. The set design is immaculate, and the costumes and stuff. He spent so much time on attention to detail with every little part of this, and so it looks great. And I would never turn down rewatching this. And I think this will probably grow on me a little bit. But it is just, there's it's very weepy and stuff like that. A lot of really intense things are happening, and I didn't feel fully compelled. And also there were some times where it kind of tiptoed into camp almost, I think by accident. I don't know, because some people, especially Aaron Taylor Johnson, is I didn't like Aaron Taylor Johnson in this, man. He's it's a very much a performance. It's almost stagey. He's just oh, top of the...
That's exactly what I was about to say. It's just
the doctor over and see if they do a house call, and I don't know. It's just very overacting a little
English,
bit.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like it fit this. It almost felt like some of the casting was a little off. I think Nicholas Hoult. I didn't mention Nicholas Hoult, and I think he was good casting in this. And like I said, I think Lily Rose Depp did a good job, but just some things were a little bit. I was a little bit at arm's length through a lot of this, and the pacing was a little off to where the first 2 acts, it felt like the pacing is really spaced out and has a lot of room to breathe, and then at the end it felt okay, we got to wrap it up. let's how it goes at the end. Let's finish it up, and there you go.
Yeah, the last 3 days or whatever go by super quick. It felt like.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a 2.5 hour movie at that point, and they gotta get it wrapped up at some point.
Yeah. And you know, if you've seen the original or any of the, you know, the Herzog version or the Francis Ford Coppola adapted it, if you've seen any of those other adaptations throughout the years, you know what you're going to get with this, with the exception of, I don't know if anybody else has ever shifted the perspective so much to Ellen Hutter's character, Lily Rose Depp's character. But besides that, you kind of know what you're going to get. It does feel like it's got that, like, especially if you've watched The Witch, I think I felt a lot of that, where there's like this evil influence on a woman and there's a little bit of a psychosexual element. But I don't think they go too heavy-handed with that. It just, I will say, it starts with a really cool opening scene where Lily Rose Depp's character is essentially just praying to any cosmic entity that will listen, do something to like help her in some way. And it's not super clear, but it seems like it's, I don't know. What was your interpretation of that? Is like, what is she asking for specifically?
Yeah, I don't know. Just
it almost seemed like she was asking for like some sexual help. Maybe it was just companionship, yeah. But the person who answers is Count Orlok, and that's who, you know, she first kind of brings them back into this world. And I think they may could have delved a little more into what's going on with that, because they try to bring it back later and make there be like a psychosexual element again, and it sort of works. It's a little bit spoilery to say this, so mild spoiler warning, but what do you think about the look of Count? Because you finally get to see, they hit it from the trailers and everything. When you finally get to see Nosferatu or Count Orlok, what do you think about the look of Bill Skarsgård as Orlok in this?
I mean, it was pretty creepy. It was really like decaying flesh, and like you could see some bone coming through and stuff. He looked kind of zombie-ish almost.
On zombie-like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw a little clip of an interview with Robert Eggers saying, like, oh, I looked up, you know, back into a time period where they actually believed in vampires and all the lore, and they would always picture them as having, like, rotting flesh and looking more zombie-like than we imagine. So that's all cool. But for me, it's the mustache.
The mustache threw me off a little bit,
Big,
but
giant, like,
yeah.
Nietzsche mustache or whatever. He almost looked like...
He looked like a Russian, like, old Russian Cossack or something.
Yeah. It reminded me of Jim Carrey's character on Sonic. I'm blanking on the name right now, but like this first Sonic movie
Yeah.
with that giant mustache. That threw me off a little bit. Like my first reaction I thought was going to be sheer horror to seeing him, and my immediate first reaction was like, kind of like the mustache. Dude. I did not see the mustache coming. I was just envisioning in my head the whole time, just Bill Skarsgård in vampire makeup, maybe some fangs hanging out or something like that. But no, we got mustachioed Nosferatu, which is interesting. That kind of, the mustache took away from it for me. Like it could have had a little more impact. But I do think that the booming, I don't know, European accent, I guess like Romanian accent or whatever, that booming, deep, slow-paced Romanian accent added a lot to the characters. So there's a lot of things that were good about the characterization there, and his castle is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, real gothic, haunting castle. So a lot to brag on. I almost wish I could have recorded this after a second watch, but this is me straight out of the theater. I like just got home. So it is what it is. It's certainly not a bad movie, but it's a little bit of today, if you ask me today, it's a little bit of a weaker one in the grand scheme of Robert Eggers movies for me. So
yeah. Dracula hangs dong.
You do get to see Dracula dong in this. Yeah, I did not see that coming. I guess if somebody's going to do it, it would be Robert Eggers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I don't think it's actually Bill Skarsgård. I think it was just CGI, but it was pretty funny and unexpected. I was like, wait a second, he just sleeps completely naked in his coffin. All right.
Oh, and you do get a lot of, there's like thousands of trained rats in this movie, like actual trained rats. It's not CGI, so that's cool. I saw a thing where Willem Dafoe was talking about how it was interesting working with a bunch of trained rats. You can kind of see the look on their faces. Like, I wonder how much that's fake. If you're hanging out with a bunch of, like, 1,000 rats, even if they're trained, I'm sure there's a little bit of trepidation going into that room. Yeah, like I said, some really iconic stuff here, and maybe this will be held up as a horror classic, and I will eat my words. Because I'm not saying it's bad, but it's just like, am I underselling this? Maybe a little bit. It's very much to taste. I can see people feeling differently about it than I did.
What would you give it then?
I think that sounds like I didn't. I feel like I'm making it sound like I didn't like it. I think I'd probably give it like a 7, or like, yeah, I think a 7's right on the money. So it's definitely better than like just okay. maybe a little overlong. Maybe I expect a little more twisted it up from the original story. But for the most part, this is Nosferatu with Robert Eggers style written all over it. So what more can you want? But just for me, leaving the theater, I didn't have a whole lot to chew on afterwards. I didn't feel super invested in the characters, so I got to take some things off for that. But what about you?
I'd probably give it an 8. I think I did like it more than you did.
Mm-hmm. I think this is one of those where I'm gonna look back at this review after a rewatch and be like, oh my god, I didn't quite get what I was getting, because the Lighthouse was that my first warning was the Lighthouse was like this. I didn't really connect with the Lighthouse, and then I watched it again and I was like, oh, I finally get it.
Oh my God. I get it.
I mean, they're all kind of slow, methodical. Like they're a lot more atmospheric and like just kind of dark movies than they are. But I've enjoyed all of them. So
I felt the most invested in the characters in the Lighthouse, and I haven't seen the Northman still. So one day I gotta finally catch the Northman. But yeah, I mean, this certainly isn't going to turn me away from watching the next thing Robert Eggers does. I'm always intrigued. I think he's going to do something called The Night next, so we'll see if that materializes. But yeah, it is a good movie. It's just I went in with like sky high expectations, thinking this was going to be in my top 10 of the year, and that's probably not a great way to go into a movie, and I did it anyway.
Yeah.
So it's on me. But yeah, thanks for watching as always, guys. That's our last one of the year, so we'll have our year-end best of the year and worst of the year coming as soon as possible before 2025 starts. So we'll see you guys very shortly on that. Thanks for watching, and yeah, see you next time.
see ya.